Hi, I'm Travis Monson with Once Upon a Board Game, and today I'm going to teach you how to play Harmonies. Harmonies is kind of an abstract, kind of a pattern matching kind of game. It's got some beautiful pieces, nice, good, chunky wooden bits. They're a lot of fun to play with. It's got some pretty artwork. It's a lot of fun. If there's games where you like trying to do pattern recognition and trying to puzzle things together, this is a game that you'll probably really enjoy. This was with a lot of well-known board game reviewers. This was on a lot of people's top 10 best games of 2024. So let me show you how it plays, and then I'll come back and talk to you about it at the end. Thanks. Okay, as I said, I'm going to be teaching Harmonies. I've got this set up for a two-player game here. You see the player boards, and each person has their little player aid that talks about scoring. There are enough pieces to go up to 4 players. So there are 2 more player boards and player aid cards here. I want to point out also that there's basically 2 modes of play. There's the side A or the side B, and the player aid cards match the information for scoring objectives. I'm going to go ahead and set those aside because we're just doing 2 players. There are also a deck of 10 what they call Nature's Spirit cards. And when you use these, each player is effectively going to get themselves a chance for additional scoring objective. It does recommend to not use these for your first, maybe your first couple of plays. This is a little bit more advanced option, so we'll just leave those out for now. So this is set up. Okay, so first and foremost, there's the board where you put the tiles. Oh, there's also the rule book that is a good reference because it's got a good summary of each turn on the back of it. So this is a good thing to kind of maybe leave on the table while you're playing. See, it's got the little picture of setup as a little reminder. Anyway, so with setup, we've got the central board here that has these tokens on it. So you'll notice in the middle there's this little arrow. Whoever the start player is, make sure the arrow just points to that person. Okay, then you can always remember who went first, because when the game is going to end, you finish the round so everyone has had the same number of turns. Okay, so you're going to seed this central board with 3 tokens drawn from this big bag, and there's a big bag of a whole bunch of tokens, as you can see. Okay, there are different amounts of the different tokens if you're one of those card counter type people. The blue and the gray, there's 23 of them, down to 21 brown, 19 yellow and green, and 15 red. So the blue and the gray are the most common, the red are the most rare, but there's a good amount of each of them. Anyway, you set up the central board with 3 tokens on each little circle there. Each person gets a player board and their player aid card. You shuffle the deck of the animal cards and you lay out 5. You go ahead and just put the cubes next to it. You can set the score pad off to the side for now. You won't need that till the end of the game. And basically you're set to play. Okay, so that's the setup, pretty easy. Okay, so how does it work? Okay, on your turn is really simple. What you have to do each turn is just simply pick one of these little spots, take all 3 of those tokens and add them to your board. And then you would end your turn by refilling. Okay, that's a simple turn, right? You have a couple of optional actions you can also do during your turn, which include I can take an animal card and put it in front of me. Okay, you can do that at most once per turn. And if you look closely at the animal board here, at the player board rather, you'll see that at the top, there's a little pause with little arrows pointing up. That's a little reminder. You can hold up to 4 animal cards at a time. 1 in each slot above your board. Okay, if I already have 4 animal cards, I cannot take another one until I've completed one and then set it aside for scoring at the end of the game. So, like I said, you can have up to 4 animal cards, and taking one of those is an optional action during your turn. Another optional action is once you take an animal card, it immediately gets seeded with cubes. However many empty little spots for cubes are, you immediately fill them up. So this one has spots for 2, this has spots for 3 cubes, and so on. So whenever you take an animal card, you immediately are going to fill it with cubes. That's all part of the take an animal card action. That is an optional thing you can do during your turn. At most, once per round, right? The other optional thing you can do is when you complete a pattern, because each animal card, as you can see, has a little pattern on the bottom of something you're trying to make on your board. Okay, and of course, this will refill, but I haven't done it because I'm going to put this card back. Okay, when you match the pattern on the card with tiles that you've placed, that you've taken from here, you basically are going to put a cube on that to show that you've completed that pattern, and it's going to score you some points at the end of the game. So placing a cube is also something you can do as an immediate free action during your turn. Okay, you can do that as many times as you're able to do, and as many of those cubes as you have. But you can only take at most 1 card per turn with a total limit of 4 cards that you're currently working on. Okay? So again, your turn is just take 3 tokens and put them on your board, and you can interrupt the placement of those tokens with taking of a card and placing an animal cube as you see fit. Okay? So that's a simple turn. Take the things, place them, optionally take a card and maybe put a cube on your board, and then refill, and then it's the next player's turn. And you keep going back and forth like that until one of 2 things happens. Either the bag is empty and you're not able to refill the supply, or somebody has 2 or fewer empty spaces on their board. When that happens, you trigger the end of the game, you finish so everyone's had the same number of turns. In this case, I'm the start player, so Allie would go last. When she's had her final turn, when one of those 2 things happens, either the bag is not big enough to refill it, or 2 or fewer spaces, empty spaces. We finish the round, then we add up scores. I'll get to the scoring in a minute. You can see you're gonna score for a bunch of different things, okay? At the end of the game, whoever has the most points wins, of course, and if there's a tie, whoever has basically placed the most animal cubes on their board, that's the tiebreaker. So, you know, that's what you're really trying to do, is you're trying to get those cards and meet the patterns to place those cubes, because it's gonna score you points, and that's also the tiebreaker, the most cubes placed. Okay, so how does this work? Let's get into it. Like I said, your turn, what you have to do each turn is take the tokens and place them. So maybe I'm gonna go here, and I'll show you why in just a second. When you take the tokens, you can place every single token wherever you want. You know, they don't have to be connected. I could put them as far apart as I want, okay? That's totally fine. Sometimes you can stack the tokens, but there is a little hierarchy here. And I'll just get this a little closer to point it out on the camera. So as you can see, any type of token can go on the ground level, right on your player board. You can stack on top of that just about anything except for the water or the fields, okay? So, and you think about the fact that the gray are the mountains. Of course, you can get taller mountains. The brown are the woods, you can get taller trees. And the red represent the buildings. So you can put a building on top of rock, or on top of another building, or on top of wood, okay? So green can go on top of wood, wood can go on top of wood, and so on. You get the gist, okay? This might seem like confusing, but once you've looked at it, once you've tried just a couple of times, it's really easy to remember and understand, you know, how the tokens get placed. So that's something to keep in mind, maybe as a little reference on the table while you're playing. Okay, so like I said, you take your tokens and you can place them wherever you want, in terms of they don't have to be adjacent, but there are those placement restrictions in terms of what can stack. So this can never stack. Water can never stack, but other things can possibly stack. Okay, so I have my eye on a card over here. So before I finish the placement of these tokens, I'm gonna do that once per turn action of taking an animal card. Okay, so I'll put that here. And you see right away there's spots for 3 cubes. So I immediately seed it with 3 cubes. And effectively this wants me to get a yellow and 2 gray in a row for what the kind of habitat that this animal likes. So I'm just going ahead, I'll go ahead and put my tokens like that on my board. I could do it wherever. I could put it in the corner. I could put it over here, you know, whatever. You can even rotate it. It can be mirrored. It can be in any orientation. As long as that pattern of gray, gray, yellow fits, you can do it. So why not? I'll go ahead and do something like that, right? And you see right away, I've met that gray, gray, yellow. And so this is where I can place a cube, and it would go on the end gray piece. Whenever you take cubes, you take them from the bottommost cube available and you put it on that spot on the board. Now, one additional restriction for placement of tokens is you can never, obviously you follow this little hierarchy of what can stack, but also you can never place a token on top of a cube, okay? That's off limits now. I can never stack on top of that one anymore, okay? So that would be my turn. So I would end my turn by basically refilling. I would also replace the card that I drew. I draw 3 more, put them out on the board. Ooh, wow, 3 green. And then it would be Allie's turn. Okay, now it's Allie's turn. Allie's thinking about, you know, which one of these cards she could maybe do. There's not any pieces to immediately fill one like I did, but she's thinking ahead and she's looking at this maybe. She's thinking, you know what, this one's, if you can see on the card, you can see that they're all basically 2nd story trees. So a brown and then a green on top of it, and then a 2nd story, the red again can be built on top of either brown or green or gray. So she likes this with the option of taking these tiles. So she'll take the card as her 1 card per turn. There's places for 2 cubes. So she'll put the cubes out, and then she can put these on her board. So she's gonna want them basically something like that, where she can, on her next turn, maybe get a couple of green and another red on top of that to hopefully complete that pattern. She can't place a cube yet because she hasn't met the pattern yet, so her turn is over. She'll replace the card that she took, and she will replace the tokens that she drew. Okay, back to my turn. Okay, so I want to maybe just interrupt the turn taking to talk about some of the scoring. Okay, I did already talk about the fact that whenever you complete a pattern, you take a cube off and put it on the board. And at the end of the game, whatever the highest up the card, the highest number that has been uncovered on each animal card is going to be how many points they're worth. All right, so currently this would be worth 4 points, but possibly up to 9 or even 16 points if I can complete the pattern a couple more times on my board. So you're going to be trying to score a bunch of points with the animal cards that you take over the course of the game. But you also score points for the different habitats. Okay, let me get this a little closer to talk about it for a second. Okay, for the trees, you can see that if it's just wood, whether it's wood by itself or even wood stacked up, it's not worth any points. Okay, you can see if I get just basically a green on the ground level, like a shrub, a bush, that's worth 1 point. If it's a tree where it's green on top of one wood, it's worth 3 points. Or if it's a taller tree, it's worth up to 7 points. And I will point out also, I didn't mention this previously, but 3 tall is the limit. You can never stack above 3 high on any space on your board, okay? So that's how trees are gonna work. So that's another thing to think about while you're trying to fill other patterns, is maybe building some trees that will score you points at the end of the game, okay? Then you look at mountain, and there's also a little reminder of how many of that type of tile are in the bag. You see the 19 green for the trees, the 23 gray for the mountains, and so forth. Okay, so with the mountain tiles, basically, again, a mountain can be any height, but you see like the little chain. What that means is a mountain has to be touching at least one other mountain in order to score. So if there's a mountain that is not linked, so if there's not at least 2 gray next to each other, it's not going to score. So that lonely mountain, yeah, may be good in the book The Hobbit, but it's not going to score points here. Sorry for the geek reference there. So you see, if a gray is touching another gray, it could be 20 grays altogether. It doesn't matter how many are connected. As long as it's touching at least one other one, it'll score. And if it's a level 1, it's worth 1. If it's level 2, 3. And if it's 3 tall, it's worth 7. Okay, so that's how the mountains are going to score. Okay, the fields, similar to the mountains, you do not want an individual field. You need a grouping of at least 2 of the yellow tiles together. Beyond that, it doesn't matter. Okay, so ideally, you would just have little groupings of 2 yellow all over the place, because that's all that's required to score. And the way that they score is each distinct group of yellow tiles on your board is worth 5 points apiece. So, and again, a group could be as few as 2 yellow tiles connected, or it could be 10. So it doesn't matter if you have a group of 2 or a group of 10, it still just scores 5 points. So that's, like I said, it behooves you to get smaller little clusters of yellow tiles connected. But again, a lone yellow tile won't score. The red, the buildings, what they do is you look at each building individually. You look at all of the other little tokens that surround it, okay? You need to be touching at least 3 different colors. And red, another building that it's touching, does count as one of those colors. So if I'm touching at least 3 different colors that surround that building, it'll be worth 5 points. If I'm only touching 2 or fewer different colors, it doesn't score, okay? So that's how the buildings score. And then finally, with the blue, with the water, you basically want to get a river, okay? So you see how it's all chained together. And the length of your river, however many tiles are in that river, is how many points it's worth. So you see it goes up to, so you see if it's 6 long, it goes up to 15 points, then every additional one is worth 4 additional points, okay? So while you're trying to fill these patterns, you're also in the back of your mind thinking about the different terrain types, because you will score for each of these terrain types, and you'll score for all the different animal patterns that you meet. So that's something you're trying to do during your turn. Okay, so it's back to me. I'm thinking whether I want to fulfill this card or this card, there's a good option with some blue, green, and yellow. Not yellow, brown, sorry. So I'm going to take those tiles. And I think initially, which one do I want? I think I'm going to take this guy here. So I'll take this card. Again, I have spots for 4 animal cards. This has a place for 5 cubes. Wow, I can fulfill that pattern 5 times. Well, it is a pretty easy pattern to make. So I'll put the cubes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cubes on my card, and then I place these on my board. Okay, so these mountains are touching. There's gray linked together, so the mountain will score. At some point, I want to get at least one yellow touching this guy, so I maybe want to leave at least one space next to the yellow. Then I'm looking at, I want to get green and blue together to do that. And I'm thinking at some point, I want my blue to have a river pattern. So maybe I want to do something like, I'll put the blue up where there's more flexibility with where it'll go. Okay, so I'll do something like, I'll do that. Sure, why not? Okay, so I just completed this pattern, green and blue. Okay, and you see that the cube goes on the blue tile. So I take the bottommost cube, I put it on the blue tile, and I've just scored another couple of points. Now this, I'm thinking ahead to the next turn, or maybe a couple turns on it, however long it takes me to get there. I want to eventually get a couple of brown stacked up and then a green in between 2 blues. So maybe if I put that there, I can get another brown and a green on top of it, then a blue there, which eventually hopefully get my river all connected. So I have my eye on that card for a future turn, right? But for now, I placed my 3 tokens. I took the animal card, I even placed the cube, so I basically end my turn by, I'll refill the card, and I'll redraw tokens for the supply board here in the middle. And now it's Allie's turn again. And she ideally would want a couple of green and another red. Well, there's a bunch of green or a couple of red. She's thinking maybe she'll just start off with this, okay? Because she also sees that there's a couple different cards that have a short level 1 tree. So she's thinking, you know what, maybe I'll make a couple of those level 1 trees, which she needs for this card anyway. And then she needs another red in the future. So she's got her eye on maybe this card, because this is almost the exact same thing as that. Those go hand in hand. So she's gonna take that card this turn. And again, that has place for 3 cubes. So she'll take 3 cubes. And then she has to place this last one. It can really go wherever she wants. And she's really not too sure what's gonna happen in the future. So she'll just maybe put it off. She'll put it off to the side for now, just for flexibility. Okay, so she's done. So she hasn't quite met either one of her cards yet because she needs a level 2 red, which she doesn't have yet. So she'll refill the card supply and she'll draw 3 more tokens. Oh, that's 4. Try again. There's 3. Okay, so it's back to my turn. So I got my eye on some of these pattern cards, and I was looking at this at the last turn, and I'm thinking I wanted to do that, but I just noticed it's basically it's a size 3 tree, so I would need to stack up at least one more brown before I can do that. So maybe I'm not quite ready to get that pattern yet. Maybe I can do something like this. So I'll say, yeah, let's go for that card. So I'm gonna take this card. So let me slide this up maybe a little bit to make a little bit more room for cards. Then there's 3 spots for cubes, so let me fill the cubes up.
I still want to go, but is it even worth coming?
Brett. Okay, so it's back to my turn. If you remember, I had my eye on this card here, but I just noticed to try and get the tree in between the water that I was thinking about doing, I just noticed it's actually a size 3 tree. I would need a whole nother brown level before I can put that green on top. So I'm not quite ready to get that one yet. So maybe I'll try something different. Maybe I'll go for this card. That's just a size 2. So I got my eye on that. So I'll take that card. Let me maybe slide this up a little bit. There's place for 3 cubes. So I'll put the 3 cubes on it. And then I will take these little tokens here are gonna fit pretty perfectly. Because if I put another blue next to it, and then I stack the green up, you see I just met that pattern. 2 blue with a small tree next to it. So I got the 2 blue and then a tree right next to it. So I can put a cube on top of the green right there. So I just met that pattern. And I'm thinking, what do I want to do with this other tree? I currently see no other requirement for another tree. So I'm thinking, well, I don't know what to do with it yet. Maybe I'll just set it off to the side to give me some flexibility. Okay. So then I'm going to refill. My turn's over. Draw 3 more tokens. And now Allie's thinking, ooh, okay, I can do this now. She's thinking, I definitely want a couple of reds. She also maybe wants, what else could she get out there? Ooh, maybe red with blue. She's thinking, ooh, this might be good. Okay, so she's looking at this card. So again, let me slide her cards over a little bit. This has space for 4. So we put 4 cubes on the card. And then she's thinking, okay, I can maybe get a couple of patterns done this turn. She's looking at this. She's already got 2 level 2 trees, and now she would just need a level 2 building. Boom, that card is done. She can put a cube on it right there, okay? She also immediately has filled this. It's a level 2 building, which she has, and a level 2 tree right there. Sorry, there's a little thread. So she can, boom, she's completed this card. She can put a little cube there to show that she did that. And she can do it both directions. Boom. That was huge. So this is an important thing. I can't remember if I mentioned it yet or not, but you can use the same tokens for multiple sets of the same pattern. Because you see, she effectively, oh, I got 1 cube left on this. She effectively met the pattern in this direction and met the pattern in this direction. So she was able to put the cubes on both of those. So just because you use a set of tokens for one pattern does not mean you can't use it again. You're trying to do that. You're trying to make your things harmonize. You're trying to make it all work together. So that the more you can synergistically put your pieces to fulfill multiple patterns at once, the better off you're going to do. So she's super excited about that. She just scored a whole bunch of points by being able to do that. So she's got these other ones. She's not sure what to do. She's maybe looking further ahead. Obviously, she wants a blue somewhere connected in a river. She's looking at, okay, well, I do have another green, maybe green, green, and then another building. So she's thinking maybe she'll eventually start building towards another building, maybe green, green, and a building, maybe something like that. And so maybe she'll just put a river. And again, the buildings want to be next to at least 3 different colors. So it's next to a green and a blue so far. So 1 more color, and then that building would also be worth points in terms of terrain scoring at the end of the game. So Allie's really happy with that, how that turned out. So she'll end her turn by drawing another card and refilling the supply. Maybe I'll just take 1 or 2 more turns to illustrate, and then I'll move on to final scoring. Okay, so it's my turn. I'm thinking, well, what can I do? There's no yellow still in the display, so I can't do this pattern. I can't worry about that pattern. And one thing to keep in mind too that I didn't mention yet is each card, kind of the long strip along the side, basically tells you the color on which you're going to put a cube to complete that. So I know that I'm going to need yellow to do this. I know I'm going to need green and blue and gray to complete those. The color on the side of the card tells you where the cube is going to go on that color. So just mentally you can look and think, okay, I'm going to need some more green and blue and gray to complete these, that kind of thing. So it's just a little way to aid the players as they're thinking through where to put things. So I'm looking at the pieces. I'm thinking maybe this. So if I take this card, I'm going to move it up a little bit more. Now I've got 4 cards, so I'm at my limit. Okay, you can have 4 cards in front of you that you're working on. So I won't be able to take any more cards at all until I complete at least one of these and then set it aside. So this requires 3 cubes to complete. So I'll put the 3 cubes on there. And I'm looking at this right here because of this. So I got a green down here. So if I do green, green, and then a level 2 building, which I can stack that, boom, I just completed that pattern right there. So I can put one on that. And then maybe if I get, green, green over here, I got green, green building, I can do that same pattern again. So I'm kind of happy with that. So I'm hoping that that's going to work out. So my turn's over. I refill the card. I refill the display. Whoop, I grabbed 4. Ah, there's a yellow finally. Okay. Allie again is looking at her board and she's looking at her cards. She would like maybe some more water, but she would need to build up another building because she can't put more cubes on those. They already have cubes on them. She needs some more trees. Oh, what can she do with what's up there? She can get some water with a single yellow. Maybe she should work towards that. Sure, why not? She'll take these, and she's thinking, I would need like a curved water. Oh, but then with yellow between it. So if I did the curve of water, then yellow would go there. So if I do water, 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 yellow, she'll be able to complete this pattern. So maybe she'll grab that And I would normally put it there, but I'm just gonna set it off to the side. And then that would take 2 cubes. Okay, and then with her mountain, she might be thinking down the road, hey, water, water with mountain next to it, so maybe I'll try and do that with the idea of making that pattern there at some future point. She's done, she refills this, we refill the supply, and I'm thinking, please give me some yellow. Whoop, there's 2. And 1 more. Oh, yellow, yes. Finally. Okay, so what do I want to get? I want yellow and blue together. I want gray, gray, yellow. Ooh, you know what? That would work perfectly if I do that. Let me take this, and I'll show you why. So first of all, if I put the yellow here, on this other side of the mountain, I see gray, gray, yellow. Once again, gray, gray, yellow. And the cube would go on the last gray. Okay, so I've completed that pattern again, going in either direction. So if I complete this pattern one more time, that card will be complete, and I can have a chance to take another card. Now with this guy, I want a single tree, and then a level 2 building. Maybe I want to put a tree there, hopefully to get a tree at the future down here that I can do that. And then, oh, this building, there's no other requirements that I have for building. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, so maybe I'll just set it there for the time being. I don't know. Sometimes that'll happen. Sometimes you just have no idea. You'll just put pieces out with hoping that you'll get a different pattern in the future. Okay, so my turn's over. I refill. Oh, I do 2 again. Oh, now the yellow are coming out. Back to Allie. And she says, okay, water, 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 yellow. That's what I wanted. So she's gonna maybe take this. Because if she can do the water right there, she's got the water, 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 and yellow. That fills that pattern. So the cube would go on the yellow, okay? She's got this little hole over here. She's thinking about scoring of fields. So she wants at least 2 fields next to each other for 5 points. So she will take that last little spot to make sure that those fields are not isolated. So she likes that. And then she's thinking, can I do anything else? Well, she's thinking, well, with a single field, maybe field blue. Well, oh, look at that. She really wants that card too, because then she could do field blue. She would be able to complete that again, but she's full. She can't take a card right now. She needs to do 1 more of these. So she will maybe she'll just put it down below, maybe thinking she can snake her river around and maybe get one of these other patterns again down below. So she's done with that. And she refills. So some more wood and green. And back over to me. I definitely want at least 1 more green because I could complete this pattern again. I need to get some more gray and a yellow. Gray, gray, yellow. You know what? I want to complete a card so I can get out there and maybe take another card. So I need a couple of gray. I'm going to take this. So if I go gray, gray, yellow like that, boom, I just got that pattern a 3rd time. I put the cube on the last gray in the pattern. This card is now complete. I've removed all of the cubes from it. So I can set this aside. I'm going to score the full 16 points for that card at the end of the game. So I'm excited about that. And now I've got a vacant spot. So I can, once per turn, I can take another card. So before I place this wood, I think about where would it fit best. I'm looking at what do I want to do. It's not looking super helpful right now with the patterns that are up there. So I will just maybe put this right here. Why not? Okay. I don't need a refill. I'll refill the board with 3 more tokens. Oh, that's 4. Green, green, blue. Back to Allie. She already can complete that if she gets it. So she would be able to, if she can complete any one of these 1 more time, she can take the last cube and take another one. She's a ways away from this one. If she can get another level 2 green and blue next, or green and red next to each other, that would be perfect. So she's thinking she can't quite do it in 1 turn. She can almost do it. She will go ahead and take this maybe, okay? So she will set maybe the wood there and the wood there. And then she will put a tree next to it. And oh, she did. Haha, look at that. I was thinking about this pattern right here, but I didn't think about the fact that the building and the green here also work. So she's got the two building, the level 2 building and the level 2 tree right there. So she did complete that pattern, and she can place that as fulfilled, and it's still her turn. Her turn is not fully over yet. So once per turn, she can take another card. She wants to take this one and put 3 cubes on it. And then she says, haha, look at this. I got yellow, yellow, blue right here. The cube would go on the blue because it's a blue card, right? Boom. She just met that as well. So that she's really excited about that. So that's the end of Allie's turn. It would refill. We would go back to fill the supply back up and so on. Okay. So you get it. I'm not going to play the entire game. You go back and forth until, and again, we'd end her turn by drawing another card. You go back and forth until either you can't quite refill the supply, which typically won't happen in a 2-player game. That's going to be in, more in like the 4-player game. That might trigger the end of the game. But more likely than not, what's going to happen is when somebody has 2 or less empty spaces on their board. You finish the round. Since I went first, Allie would go last, and then you add up the score. Again, you'll go through all the different terrain types for how well you score for each of them, and then you look at all the animal scoring that you did, and the highest score wins. And in a tiebreaker, whoever has more placed animal cubes. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Allie's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So currently, we're tied in terms of placing cubes. So that's how it works. I will just maybe show the boards at the end, show you what the final score might look like and how that gets calculated. Okay, so the game just ended. I took my turn, and I actually filled in the rest of my board. So Allie got her final turn since I went first. She took the last thing. She placed a couple more. She was able to complete another card on her last turn, so she's excited. So now the game is over, and so now we look at final scoring. So I'll grab the little scoring pad. I'll slide these up just a little bit. They give me room to write. So we'll say I got Travis and Allie. Okay, so let's look first and foremost at those animal cards. So I completed 2. This one was worth 17. So I got 17. I got 16. And then I got, on this card, I only did it 1 time. I thought that'd be a lot easier to do, but so be it. C'est la vie. I only got 2 points for that. I got 4 points for that. And I got 5 points for that. So that's my total for the cards. So again, 7 and 6 is 13, and 2 is 15, and 5 is 20, 24, 2, 3, 4, 44 points in cards. Allie completed 3 cards for 13, 12, and 13. So 13, 12, and 13. She also has 4 points on this card and 6 points on that card. So 4 and 6. So that's 10, and 5 is 15, 18. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, she's got 48. So we're pretty close on the scoring of the cards. So now we've scored the cards. We can set those aside. So now we look at the habitat. So we first look at the tree regions. And if you remember, just a stack of wood is worth nothing. A bush, like a green on the ground, is worth 1. A level 2, so a green on top of a brown is 3, and then a level 3 is worth 7. Okay. So I've only got 1 level 2. I have no 3s. So this 1 level 2 right here is worth 3 points. And then all these greens on the ground are worth just 1. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points for my green. Allie has 2, 3, 4 of those trees that are worth 3. So that's 12. And then 1 for the little bush. So 13. So I scored 13 for her green. The mountains, Allie had virtually no gray. She only has 1. But if you remember, unlinked, if it's not touching another mountain, it doesn't score. So Allie gets a big fat 0 for mountains. This mountain, even though it would be worth 3 for being a level 2, it's alone. It's not linked. So that one is worth 0. These 4 are all together. They're linked. So they're worth 1 point each. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So neither one of us scored a whole lot on mountains. My 4 to her 0. Then the fields, again, the fields have to be together. These are both separate. They have to be at least 2 in a group or they don't score. So I score 0. Allie gets 5 for this group and 5 for that group. So she's excited. She gets 10. Then you look at the buildings. The buildings have to be touching at least 3 different colors. This one is touching green. It's touching 1 color. So this one doesn't score. This one is touching green and brown and gray. So that building does score. That's worth 5 points. So that's my buildings. So Allie's got 4 different buildings. This one over here is touching yellow and blue and green and brown. So it's touching a bunch of colors. So that one scores. This one is touching red and green and blue and yellow. That one scores. This one is touching red and green and blue. That one scores. That one is touching green and blue and gray. Wow. All of her buildings are touching at least 3 different colors. So all 4 of her buildings are going to score 5 points. Yikes. So that's another 20. I think Allie maybe just ran away with the win right there. Okay. And then you look at your longest connected river. And if it does talk about the fact, like if a river snakes back and forth, it would be whatever the shortest path, so you can't count all the branches as part of your length of your river. So Allie's longest river is right here with a length of 3. And a length of 3 is worth 5 points. So she gets 5 for that. Then my best river is length 5. So for 5, I score 11 points. That might be too little too late. We'll see. So 10 and 4 is 14. And 11 is 25 and 5 is 30. So 30 to my 44 animal cards is 74. I got 13 and 10. That's 23 plus 20 more is 43. Plus 5, 48. Ooh, yeah, she won. 48 on terrain, 48 on animal cards. Yikes. She got 96. She crushed me. She beat me by 18 points. So that's Harmonies. That's how it plays. I will mention briefly these nature spirit cards. Like I said at the beginning, it says in the rules, it recommends not using these for your first play. What happens is you'll shuffle the deck. Each player will start with 1, and they'll basically already have it. Let me just set these aside. That will be basically one of the cards that I'm already going for. And it'll start with, and those have a clear cube instead of the regular cube. So you'll get your nature spirit card with a cube on it. And of course it has a pattern that you're trying to complete. Once you complete it, you'll add the cube just like normal, okay? But instead of just being worth a set amount of points, it gives you basically another scoring condition that you're trying to fulfill. So in addition to, points for animals and points for terrain, I also have something that my card specifically wants me to do. It gives you another goal, another way to score points. And they're all kind of summarized in the back of the rule book of, what those scoring objectives are. So that's another kind of a fun way to give you something else to think about while you're playing. And then finally, I'll mention on the back side of the board, the terrain, the side B, it scores for the most part the same. The trees and the mountains and the fields, they still all score the same. Same thing with the buildings. Really the only difference is the scoring of the water. Basically, if you look, let me zoom the card in here closer. What you're trying to do is basically you're trying to create like islands. Think of the water as, an ocean effectively. And so you see there's a little island up in the corner. There's a little island up there. There's a bigger island down here and then a big island off to the right. Right? So you effectively want your water to section off your board into different islands. Okay? And you'll get 5 points for each distinct island. So this person would have 4 different islands, so they'd score 20 points if that was what their board looked like at the end of the game. So that's the difference between the side B and the side A. It's really just the way that the water scores. Other than that, it plays the same. So that's Harmonies. As you can see, the games are quick. What does it say on the box? It says games last about 30 minutes, and I think that's true. Even with a full player count of 4 people, you could easily get a game in 30 minutes or less, especially once you've played it a few times and once you're more familiar with trying to see and kind of plan out the patterns ahead. You can just click through, because it's just take 3 pieces and put them on your board and see if you made one of those patterns. It's fun to kind of add those nature spirit cards that give you an additional scoring objective, give you something else to think about. And it's fun to try and puzzle together the patterns for what the animals want for their habitat versus how the habitats themselves are going to score. And when you can make those things match up, and not only those match up, but then when you can maybe place 2 or 3 or 4 cubes on the same turn, it's really satisfying when you get a good turn like that. So this is one that is really pretty and really short and a lot of fun to play. So hopefully this teaches you how to do it if you want to pick it up and play it yourself. And if you have any questions or comments, let me know. Happy to provide any feedback or information that I can. So thanks again for watching. Travis Monson with Once Upon a Board Game. Thanks.